to kind of reset where we're at, because of the understanding from the previous councillors, they weren't quite happy with rates as we currently had it set up. And with the Three Waters activity leaving council by 2027, 1 July 2020, we thought that we could bundle in a rates review and maybe change a few things at that. So leading up to that time, a rates review, however, is a big task, and we need it's multi-month piece of work. So it's driven by council, and it is effectively what you guys want to see. If you want to see anything change, that's the thing. Changing nothing is also an option, so we don't have to if you don't want to. But I'll hand over to Stephen. He's got a PowerPoint there ready to go, which doesn't seem to be on the screen at the moment.
I was going to say, can you see it or not?
No.
No?
Can we get a sit round?
Sometimes it takes a wee while to come across. The technology is great when it's great and not great when it's.
Then we can start.
Okay. So I've come down from Whanganui to be here.
Sure.
And you know about the relationship between Whanganui and Alexandra? We were once called Alexandra. And unlike Waimate and some other places that have a north and a south version of it, the people of Whanganui were obviously smarter and said, we'll change our names. It's not two Alexandras in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing I learned. It's just to the west of Hamilton, close to Te Awamutu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And before I was there, I spent 20 years over at Oamaru. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been hanging around local government for a long time, and have been.
Have you learned anything?
Have I learned anything? I choose not to be a councillor.
That was a very good learner.
So I've written the policy for Taitoura, a number of versions of that on how to do a rates review. And there we go, there's stuff up there you can read yourself. What we're hoping to achieve today is an understanding of rates and rates policy, and hopefully to have some time to hear from you on what thoughts of things that need to be fixed, and consider the next steps in your journey on this. Just to help me out, 4 new councillors that haven't been through this.
Yes.
One there. One there, yeah. Good luck, guys. Right, we had an agenda that we'll just ignore, but it's something like that. And we'll start off with the law. The law we're dealing with, the latest version of it is the 22nd August version of it. Both acts were created in 2002. So there's a Local Government Rating Act and the Local Government Act. Of course, we're in a time of change, and many things are happening all at once at the moment. And some of you will know much more about that than me with some of the briefings you've had. But we are getting changes in the current legislation that's before a select committee now on the definition of the purpose of local government. And we'll give some consideration how that affects us on rates. There's lots of noise about rates capping coming, and that's going to change the way we think about things. And of course, moving water away is one of the other things. And then we've got the release about regional councils, and to the extent that that changes how we rate. So there's going to be a lot of uncertainty about rating in the future. My instinct, having done some work on the waters reform and stuff, is that we keep it simple and flexible. That's where the success lies but time will tell on how all of that works. Rates are a tax, not an exchange for service. That is really well established in law, long time. The most recent court cases, the Auckland court case for accommodation, reinforced it. Rates is a tax. It's not an exchange for service.
Well,
Make sense?
so why aren't we just cutting the rates?
People are still paying it.
Who's paying the service, if that's the case? Who's going to pay for the service?
Well,
That's the
I think if you think about the central government, we're one of only two entities in the country that can do this. Central government is the first one. They levy a tax. It's not user pays, which is the exchange for service, and we are the only other one. So we have the ability to spread the cost of an activity that some or most of our ratepayers may not ever use, but it contributes to the well-being of the district. So I think the argument around user pays, I don't use it, I shouldn't pay for it, that, as Stephen says, that's been well established in law, that doesn't apply.
We do have fees and charges, and they will become fascinating if rates capping comes in. To how we think about the cost of stuff. It's something for the future. Terminology for particularly new councillors. We have two general rates. It's called the general rate, and that is levied on either capital value or land value. And then there is the Uniform Annual General Charge, or UAGC. That's a fixed rate, as in a fixed dollar amount, $170 at the moment here, and but that's a fixed rate to every ratepayer. These two rates, unless you're in the list of entities that don't pay rates, which is in a list in the Act, unless you're one of those, you must pay these. Council sets one of these. So everyone pays. Target rates. Targeted rates are the other type of rate we have. And there's a vast choice. You can set a targeted rate on the use of a property, the activities in the district plan in the property, the area of the property, provision of services for the property, the location, and whether it's capital value or land value. You can also do that. The Act has annual value, and no councils in the country use annual value, so we won't go there, but it does say. And then there are factors that are used to set the rates. So if you set the rates based on the capital value, the annual value, the land value, the area of sealed payment, which is bizarre and hardly ever used, separately and used in habit of parts, which is something we're probably going to talk about, is relevant to your needs. The extent of provision services, the area protected by something, and the area of the floor. And of course, we're not. What I've done on this slide is I've put a cross through Waters stuff, but it's still there at the moment, sort of thing. Because this is the data is based on this year's data. So for targeted rates, you can set a targeted rate on one rating unit, or you can do it on every rating unit and anything in between. And so I've seen examples of that. And rates are generally talked about in variable rates and fixed rates. And probably, so fixed rates are regressive to income. The most common place we see that every day is in GST. regardless of your income, you pay the same amount of GST, whereas the variable rates, which are the capital value or land value rates, they change based on the value of your property. And in doing so, there's an assumption that the more value of property equates to your income. And that's a pretty rough. There's lots of exceptions to that in reality. There's people with not a lot of income, with a lot of wealth property.
It's a lovely picture of Burnside Homestead.
Where?
Burnside Homestead.
It's a random thing I got a couple of years ago. I don't know.
That's why she's mayor. That's why she's mayor. She's been there.
He knows how much they're paying rates as well, isn't he? Heaps.
It was just a pretty picture. So capital value is your land value plus the improvements value to your property. So that's those simple explanation of what land value, improvements and capital value. You'll see those when the valuer comes and does his conversation with you probably. And wrong way. Rates and differentials. This is an interesting part of local government where differentials are not well understood by many people. And it's where you have a variable rate and you split it up so that different people pay a different amount. It could be based on these things here. Typically, it's represented where the differential is a factor of the different activities that you've chosen: residential, commercial, rural, and forestry. In this example, and so you generally have the differential calculated from one for residential, and then everything else is either increased or decreased based on the choices of council.
So who determines residential, commercial, rural, forestry? We do, or is that set by government?
So
people?
Fascinating. The use of a property is a choice of every council. But every now and then, someone from Wellington asks local government they try to collect information from us, and for rates people, it's really complex because we all have different definitions of what a residential property is, and so on and so on. There are councils that have no commercial or no. Hamilton City has no rural, even though they've got cows on paddocks. There's all sorts of, and the other thing is that percentage number is only relevant to your council. You can't compare it with another council because it's all about the size of your population. And so that's where it gets.
So that's where we should be having we've had these conversations of sitting there, putting the categories. Because to me, and I've been big on this for a long time, you took residential, commercial, could be broad. And I'm saying, coming down our channel, there's a lot of commercial enterprises that are on rural land.
And that's an interesting choice of councils. There's a court case between Meridian and Wellington City over the wind farms, and Hamilton City wanted to rate them commercially as a business. And
they got frightened because they
were stuck out in the middle of nowhere on farming land at Makara, and went to court, and the judge said, "Yep, no, the council can do that. They can call it business and charge a higher rate."
And I guess is that the fear? Like, well, I've had these discussions before because we've got solar, we've got energy, it's commercial energy kit, like a commercial gold mine or a commercial other infrastructure. are we fearful of pushing that boat out because we might have litigation or we might have to fight those decisions in a court that's using taxpayers' money? But actually, if you took that approach, which I'm right in that camp, if you come in and you're a foreign solar farm and you've got your American hedge funds, you're investing in a commercial operation. You're not investing in energy for beautifulness. And so why shouldn't we look at as on that board that they're paying a percentage greater than the residential person?
An option.
What you're saying is that you just have different types of rates for commercial.
Yeah, and I get that. So I'm hoping the best thing drops out of this. We start having those conversations with different commercial.
Why we're here?
Is there
Love
enough
it. Love it. Keep going.
precedents going on in New Zealand in this space yet?
So I went to a meeting like this with Wairau Council some years ago now, and started talking about what their concerns were, and we had some engagement with the community, and they were really concerned about forestry and the impact of forestry has on their communities. They had two cities either side, Gisborne and Napier. All the workers were coming in, all the machinery was going out to be fixed, all the timber was going out, and there wasn't much left for Wairau, stuck in the middle. You know, the Billion Tree Fund was out there, and farmers were selling their land to foresters, and there was concern for community and AFCO there. So that led to some conversations about what were the opportunities to rate forestry at a higher rate because they're creating negative community outcomes. I said to council, it's an option. It's an option that no one else has created in New Zealand at this time. But there's nothing in the legislation that says you can't do that. And I said to them, if we follow the process, and go through the process, you will go to court, I said, but you should win it. It went to the highest court in the land. It went to court 3 times, and they won 3 times. So
So what you're saying is the precedent's already been set.
precedent has been set.
We're away now.
So that's why, you know, when you talk about rating solar farms,
Well,
I wouldn't worry about too much what the court's going to say because I think you can quote the precedent.
yeah, but all I'm saying, and I love this conversation, it's the most exciting part of the day at the moment, is we've been asked that we've got to find
Thanks.
alternative income and we've got to find ways to do it. And we're going to be chased down this channel in the next 20 years when these young fellas' grandchildren are running around with other investment coming in that isn't what we've got now, and our rate, and same with tourism, everything else is going to pay for it. And we've been frightened, I think,
We've got to do this,
to have the big decisions and make
do
it
this
happen.
in the next 3 years because we're losing 1/3 of our income.
And that,
Yes.
you know, so I love these conversations because I think we've got to hit it hard. We're going to hit it, and we're going to be.
Let's go then, Stu. Yep.
That's why you're sitting there, not there.
Even what Stuart said, we're done. Thanks for that.
One of the things about rates is there's this many opportunities of how you do it. I have done rates reviews for lots of different councils that are very different. The trick is for me to understand what you want and to make sure you understand what you want, get the outcomes that are right for your community. Hopefully, we've built up confidence that what you want to do is great, because the biggest weakness to a rates review is when it comes to getting all the feedback from the community, keeping your energy going to finish it. Otherwise,
We've become quite accustomed to feedback.
I've been to, I've done a rating review that was the 3rd review of a major city, and the 2 previous had failed at that last stepping point of saying yes after talking to the community, and we paid 3 times to get it done.
So where do we go from here in the sense that I want people to look at how we strike different rates. We can't just rely, even though I'm big on line-up development contributions.
Let's review first.
We are going to
And this is where we're starting today,
Decision making.
and we'll move on. So these are your current differential rates. This is stuff out of the LTP, so you can look that up. Yeah. You've talked about 30% review.
We have talked about.
Yep, so we'll move quickly through that. There's things we can do there. You've probably seen that.
Not that, but I guess the thing about the 30% rule is that shouldn't be the key focus that we look at. It should be something that falls out of the review. So Stephen and I talked about that this morning, and the 30% thing shouldn't drive how you set your rates up.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to comply with it ultimately, but if it means
It's easy
you go
to
down a
comply
path,
Yeah.
and you get what you get in terms of the 30% rule after that, I think that's more important than trying to fit the 30% rule, I guess what I'm saying.
Separately used inhabited parts. Strange wording in the legislation. Made even stranger because the government didn't define it when it first came out. And then after 2 years, they realised that was a problem, and they created a clause in the legislation that says every council can define it themselves. It's big and strong of them. So it's a policy that council creates for its community, and it's particularly for businesses that are multi-businesses in one building or one rating unit, I should say. And so they each might pay a rate rather than, I mean, the landlord's always going to pay that. The owner of the property is always going to pay the rate. That's a long time ago. You used to rate the tenants, and that was really hard sometimes to get that money collected. And the really tricky part of SUIPs is the granny flat and those separate parts of a property and what it's been used for, because it's how it's used. In some councils, it gets quite complicated. I've asked the question of how close to the house do you want your staff getting, and do you want to look at it from space? Do you want to go and at it from the street? Do you want to look between the curtains to see what's happening in the house? It gets really complicated and can be more expensive to administer it than not. So how you develop this policy, there's really good reasons why you probably would develop a policy in this place. But you need to be really careful you don't create a right for your own back in terms of the administration of it.
Can I just ask, sorry?
How many councils are using this? Do Queenstown Lake still use this? Because it's probably most applicable here to those areas where you've got a self-contained downstairs flat and you're renting it out.
Well, they got some other stuff in their district plan, which most councils don't have, which gives them the ability to collect information about what's happening in the house via the district plan and the use of the property there. There are other, there's a lot of councils using it, is the answer. And there's a lot of slightly different versions of it.
Would that capture the situation where you've got a large scale solar farm leasing the land of a rural landholder? You've got rural land, but it's not actually changed ownership to be under the new commercial entity.
Yeah, so there's a couple of
Just the inhabited.
Yeah. But we can still go. It's a different use. It's not a farming use. This is the Wellington. Doesn't need to be under the RMA. It potentially could be, but that Wellington case is these are stuck in the middle of farmland, and council is rating them as businesses. The council could rate the farmer, and then the farmer's got to get it back. Not particularly popular with farmers.
Because the farmers getting the income,
because their contract
yeah,
didn't take account of that.
in the commercial lease
It's no
operation.
different than windmills, because a lot of windmills are on lease land, aren't they?
I'm talking windmills,
No, you are, I thought you were talking solar
Yeah.
farm, sorry, yeah.
but solar farms and windmills, I think
Same
are
thing,
Same
yeah.
thing.
pretty similar.
Yeah.
And it's, the dams, we're not allowed to rate on the machinery. It's understanding there'll be parts of it which is, does solar farm cells count as machinery? Building? That sort of stuff, and the Valuable General's looking into that.
He's looking into that. Yep, that's not been decided yet. I guess
But
we'll come
that-
back
that
to
wouldn't
what
stop.
define as your sewer. How you want to define that
Yeah.
as well.
That wouldn't stop the council looking at it, though, would it?
No, but his choices will change, will depend on what our choices are. So we'll still have choices.
To move the path.
Yeah.
I mean, if he decides that, yes, they are part of the capital value, then it forms part of it. If he decides it's machinery and he doesn't value it,
Then it's-
then we have to make
The
it.
value of the land is higher anyway,
Yeah.
and we'll pick it up that way.
Just depends on
Yeah.
how much we pick up.
So in the legislation, there's a whole lot of things that are non-rateable. And that's a summary of it all there. A lot of stuff that we do and stuff that others do.
What was that on there?
Schools are on there, yep.
Oh, yeah.
You had to get rates out of cemetery.
You didn't put.
Well, most of the cemeteries are councils, but that doesn't verify.
You say you didn't put it off it.
Putting them their holes.
Doc's a big one
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, conservation land, it's on there.
Don't pay rates, non-rateable.
Behind these few words, there's a lot of words in the legislation about what goes and doesn't go. My understanding is you have no Māori freehold land.
Yeah.
We'll skip through that. Remissions versus write-offs. Remissions is something you do in advance. Write-offs is something you do after someone's not paid you. It's quite an important distinction. Remissions are where you make a choice, whereas write-offs are where you've lost that choice.
So that second bullet point,
Remissions are very cool.
the very cool tool,
Yes.
to address anomalies in the rating system. So your system, you're acknowledging it can't handle everything, and you just use remissions to help balance it up, or?
One of the examples would be that piece of land down Pikedia that the vast majority of the farmers in the Clutha district, and they've got like a
Yeah,
couple of hundred metres in our district. So they have a remission for that because they don't actually live here or access their land from any of our roads. It's just a little slither that comes into the.
Yeah, okay.
An example, with Waimate, they were doing a rates review. They were going to separately use inhabited parts, and it was a very, they're quite happy with that, but when it came to the camp down at the Waitaki River mouth, they were going to get the number wrong, but roughly 60 different dwellings on that piece of one title. Suddenly there were 60 ratepayers paying a UAGC and things like that. So that came through submissions, and I said to council, the way to deal with this is not throw out the whole policy because of this one group of people, but to create a remission for them to get it appropriate, the appropriate amount. So that's where it's very cool. It helps us deal with the anomalies that would otherwise stop us. Work something that works well for the community across most people. Your current rates, general rate, UAGC on general rate on land value, fixed UAGC, and that's a list of the activities that are funded from that. That there, and then targeted rates. Here's your list of targeted rates. It should be it's all in the LTP. We won't go any further on that today. Wastewater, that's all disappearing. And then you've got your targeted rates for waste management, community facilities, library, grants, planning and development, economic development, tourism. So we've got a mix of variable rates and capital value rates on several of those. So you can mix them up. And what's that? Rates pie. Set. Super. Oh, see it there. There we go. Got it. The rates pie. Put the whole thing. So 40% of your rates are variable and 60% fixed. And your biggest one is the general rate. UAGC is quite small. Wastewater. So we all need to do some work on what that pie looks like without waters. Picture of New Zealand. Right, this is some old information. And it's 2019 done by the Productivity Commission. Getting this sort of information for local government is challenging at times, which is why we're dealing with a piece of something. So there's some odd blue dots on there, the odd shaped ones. So there are people that have moved to capital value. So you got Wairā and Thames Coromandel are moving this coming year. Wairarapa have moved. Interesting. We've got Waitaki, which is land value one just above yourself. Waitaki. I did that rates review in 2023. That was the first rates review I did when I was working there. And just had a little bit of trouble getting rid of the general rate with a couple of elected members. So all the big rates are capital value and there's a tiny general rate. But while they've got a general rate, it's not their big rate. Big rate's eroding rate. So just because someone's listed as being land value doesn't mean to say it's a big deal for them. Whereas other people, you've got a fascinating general rate with not a lot of differentials to it, really.
It's quite a big shift from land value to capital value over what is not a huge period of time.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that it's about equity between rural and housing and getting the value of houses and equity. The fact that bigger houses theoretically more income. The only place I've really done some good work on that was up in Gisborne, and that was to do with the deprivation index as a part of the community and things like that. And, yeah, so a lot of work was put into that sort of analysis.
Do you think that this a similar amount of work could be put into our disproportionate elderly population, many of whom are asset rich but cash poor? And whether how many people we have who are on the pension here would make our picture look slightly different to somewhere that had a bigger demographic of working age people. Would that play into it?
Oh, yeah. I sit on the fence. I haven't really thought about that much at the moment. One of the things, capital value, people have a better handle on what capital value is than land value. Because when they're buying and selling, you don't separate those two.
They're only living on capital value, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're going to the bank on capital value. That's their saving.
That's the currency.
We're not taxing it, or we're not capital gains taxing it, but we're not taxing it at our level either. If we're collecting tax on behalf of what we do with the government, that's the only mechanism you can get it on.
Have you seen a shift in reverse with anything?
There is a major council that don't know what the mix of their council is post-election, but there was one short for going back to land value. That was based on the science that says that land value encourages head to capital value, encourages investment in that land value. Doesn't. Another metro that I've worked with got said that the land got external advice that said the land value, the rates are not enough. Value of rates for building a multi-story commercial building is not enough to weigh whether they do that or not. All the other expenses are far, far bigger, and the argument there. Overall, I think it's a gut feel as to which feels right for you. I don't think there's a big difference.
It is partially regressive though, using land value, because it punishes the smallest or the worst house on the same street.
Yep.
It's paying the same as the nicest house on the same street.
Yep. Right.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And also in a region that's got a big geographical split. A different outcome.
The farmer's paying a lot of your rate because you've got no differential. Very rare. In fact, I don't know another example of a council has a differentiated land value rate without a long list of differentials. What I've observed most of my career is all of these differentials that happen on land value rate go away on a capital value rate because they're trying to get that equity thing.
You don't have many differentials as far as our farmers are concerned. None.
It's one differential for rural and residential.
Yeah.
And the general rate.
Yeah.
So with the capital value, is it a better rate to pick up the perceived growth that we're going to have? Because your high net worth and it's a bit like a subsidy, your high flow volumes coming out of somewhere else that's going to be coming here, it'll pick up a house, like a house in Cromwell or Bannockburn tomorrow could be worth $2 million.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, to answer your question, someone moves down here, buys a block of, buys a section in Bannockburn, bulldozes it, builds a $5 million house. They're actually paying the same general rate as the person next door who's got the 50-year-old house and has been here forever.
On land
To
value.
answer your question.
Yes.
And what that doesn't
Well done,
do
Kevin.
is because you've got the rural sector that's not changing a lot because land is land and that's what it's used for. You're limiting the rates that you can collect
From that end.
from
Well,
the capital value portion of it because you've got, you buy a section for $500,000 and you build your $5 million house on there. There's a 10 times factor there that you're not getting
That's
the
right.
rural sector. So the rural sector bears that burden of rates that could be, not saying it should be, but could be transferred to the urban space.
and then in another anomaly, you're charging other variable rates based on capital value already. It's just the one rate, which is the general rate.
Well, there's a little bit of a history behind that is because when it was, we pulled it back into the district.
Yeah.
All the wards already charged on capital value, and we thought at the time that it was going to be too much of a change, given we had 3 or 4 months to prepare a long-term plan or an annual plan. That was long-term plan to make the change to land value. So we left it all at capital value.
It's going to be potentially an issue. I don't know how QV is going to work this out, but there's been 2 massive land sales that do not reflect rural.
Yeah.
And how does that impact the rural community? Because the reality is that's not what what rural land is actually worth in our district. It's because that has a special purpose. And that could affect rural significantly.
Could be adjusting for.
There should be nominally showing up and that should be an adjustment.
They should deal with that. I guess at the end of the day, as much as we like increasing values, that's a conversation between QV and the landowner
Yeah.
to work out.
So that gets picked up.
Yeah,
We'll move on. Most of the green councils have reconsidered and gone through a process in that time as well and decided to stay there. This is another interesting graphic from the commission, and the targeted rates are the dark blue. The general rate is the green in the UAGC. What you see there is that every council is different as to how they do their rates. Hamilton, at the time this was done, Hamilton, I was doing this work for them. They were in the middle of transferring from capital value to land value. They did that over a 10-year period. And so they sit in the middle of this because, and today they are almost 100% capital value with differential, two differentials, a residential and a commercial. And so they don't show as being, they'd be right down the bottom with Auckland general rate, pretty much.
That's, to be fair, just to summarise it, that's what you'd expect given down the bottom. Your general rate makes up a huge portion because they're largely cities. The top of the line, top where you're more targeted is, it goes back to your ward basis. You're targeted at ward level historically, so that would to be expected.
Trying to zoom in and I'm going the wrong way.
You'd expect a large city to have a higher general rate take than a targeted rate because there's no need to target to a certain extent in a large city, is there?
Yeah, a little bit better. It's a new thing. I've just.
We do.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So it will have changed a little bit because you've changed some of your rating policy since then, but I mean, you see up the top there, Marlborough is 100% targeted rate. Counts, you know, there's councils that don't have a general rate. There are quite the right hand side is the UAGC. There's quite a difference. You've got a very small UAGC versus some of those others. So there's no one answer. No one answer. I need to get out of this. Right. So doing a successful rate review is all about process, and the choice is yours to make. That's the process we need to go through to do it successfully. It is dependent on the number of times that we have to run models and the number of times you guys change your minds and things like that. It happens. So I won't go into any more detail on that. We'll keep going.
Yourself, obviously.
How does that fit in with LTP? Because I'm thinking that's going to all tie into them.
What we're aiming for is that this would fall into a new revenue and financing policy ultimately. We are aiming to have that ready to go June next year. And we want to consult, you have to consult on that anyway. We'd want to consult on that outside of the LTP consultation because I don't think running them together, you lose one or the other in the noise.
Undoubtedly, the rates take over and what you're planning for the future disappears.
It gets
I've
lost.
seen councils do that. I tried to stop them, but they didn't.
So our aim is to be consulting July through December of next year and then you make a final decision, which then feeds into our LTP. It doesn't impact the LTP significantly, only in the funding impact statement part for the rates take. You've already decided that before you get to that point through your revenue and financing policy discussion. So really then the LTP is about the LTP stuff rather than this.
We still have to do that if we change the targeted rate and we just increase the percentage of it. Look, if we put another category in there, do we have to consult?
You introduce a new rate, right? That's a consultation issue.
It's percentage of the categories there and determine you're in that category before you're not in that category.
There's some fine lines.
Yeah.
Way with some things.
In other words, industrial, can I put a solar farm into the industrial part of the industrial rate?
You're going to consult on that. There's no way you're going to make a change that is significant that no one else in the country has done without covering your butt on everything. That process is really important.
Right.
Process is our friend in this case.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm just getting my head around. I'm not always that clever in all this stuff.
New differentials, consult. Anything that's effectively is going to change, something that someone hasn't paid before,
Yeah.
you're going to have to consult. Yeah,
If
it's
we're
a
going to end up potentially with some quite wild variations
Yep, that's
in
right.
the
Yeah,
request
yeah.
for equity, it means that many people will be paying a whole heap more so that we can make it.
And there's going to be a whole general new lot of rates paying people and rate paying industry.
Yeah, and I guess if you're going to consider land value to capital value, that's probably going to be your biggest discussion and change if that happens. You know, it doesn't matter then if you've got a tiny little change, you may as well just consult everything because there's no point trying to separate out the bits that you may have not needed to consult on. Just go for it kind of thing.
Perfect.
But a rating review is 80% technical and 80% hearts and mind. We need to get the technical stuff right, keep ourselves out of court, make sure our rates are legal. But at the same time, the decision to change the rates is very much hearts and mind. You've got to face the community and explain to the community why you're doing this. Every change we make, someone's going up, someone's going down. We need to explain that, both of them. And that's all about hearts and minds. A lot of politics is about hearts and minds. But the other part of it
So what do you recommend
is,
you do
is
in the electoral process?
Well, we've already signalled this to our community and said, as part of the 2027 long-term plan, we have to look at everything right back to the basics of how we rate.
Well, there's actually a need to because we're going to run up right up against the fixed charge limit once you take the water services away. Yeah.
As the mayor said, it has been signalled.
Yeah.
It will take some time to get us to the point where it's introduced at the LTP. It's not a quick, I guess that the answer is not quick in terms of the electoral cycle. I mean, we can't just change it by that because you'll spend the next 10 years in court.
And you know what? No matter how good the information is, no matter how much consulting we do, the bottom line is the first question you're going to get is how much my rate's going to be. That's all they're going to want to know.
LTP because that's all they want to do. Yeah, 100% free. Tax reviews can be expensive. They get more expensive when you don't finish. All over again. So that's why it's really, really important we get together and understand it. These numbers aren't anything particularly interesting. They're made up for the slide, but it's in the ballpark probably, depending on the quality of the engagement. Really important, really important. That was big than what the judge said on the Wairoa case. The community spoke before council introduced it. Because it came from pre-engagement. You've got some of that pre-engagement already in your future work that you've been doing. And so we'll pick up on some of that. There's a big chunk of external time and some external time involved. Rates.
Just have a really good review of our rates and make any significant changes, do you know?
I've been talking to the team and they can't remember that in a very, very, very long time.
Martin?
I think the great change when we districtised it all back into.
Oh, gosh.
The biggest districtisation was the biggest change, but we haven't really done it
But we didn't change the rating system, we just brought it back.
for 20 years.
Yeah.
So rates reviews are,
Before you go on, conscious of the time, you're out of here at 4:30.
Yeah.
We could draw a line here, couple more, and then come back and finish it at a later stage. That would be.
It'd be great. And I'm not sure if those slides are available, but
Yeah, we
if
can.
they are, it'd be good to.
I'll send them out. We'll get them sent out. Yeah, sorry. Jason.
yeah, so rates are a big thing, and you're gonna hear everyone's worse off. You're gonna get legal threats. You're gonna have many submissions. In my experience, for a lot of councils, it's the most number of submissions I have on a big rates review. Everyone is against it. The people that are for it never come see people.
Tractors up the stairs.
Tractor upstairs, I've seen that happen. I've seen the police called to meetings. It could be rough.
Topical.
We love a good robust discussion here, don't we?
We're going to have robust discussion.
Goes to Renee now.
Follow the principle, own it, engage, prepare for change, listen to submissions, front meetings, really important for that, front meetings, sort of thing. Clear messaging, focus again, keep saying that. The whole team of people, there's great comms people here and all that are going to help make this happen. It's going to involve a lot of people. And then,
We've asked for it though. We've been asked.
yep,
We've been asked to do this. And we're listening and we're doing it. They just might not.
And we said we were going to do it. Many of us said we were going to do it. And I think
Right.
local
And
government at
the
the
reality is-
moment is reforming everything everywhere all at once. So
Might as well get it in there, chuck it in the mix as well.
Place upside down.
that covers the big part of this. Everything else is a little bit more detailed, local government stuff. And going through that.
So in terms of the work that you do and that you undertake the councils, I take it that's something that would come to us as here's a proposal in a company, which may or may not be you, goes away and comes back with a proposal of what could work best for us, or we work through it. How does that?
We had already got Stephen, so we did actually try another firm as well, and they never come back to us. So what we have done is we have appointed Stephen, who's got experience in this area, to help us as we go through this process.
Steve.
We have
Do like
budget,
an expert.
we have budget in this annual plan
Yeah.
or part of it.
Mhm.
And we have put budget in the next annual plan for the balance of it.
Yeah.
So we'll have budgeted, we have it covered in the budget. I guess knowing that you can't make decisions today, but the indications are what I've heard is you really want to go ahead with this. I think the next step is we'll get the PowerPoint sent out with the balance of the stuff that we haven't covered yet, but we can still do that online. And Stephen and I and Saskia will work up what we need from the council, because this is not and can't effectively be driven by staff, because it's really setting the council up to go forward. So it's your ideas, your input that we will be taking and making something that you can consider, I guess.
But
is what it-
supporting with modelling so that we
We'll
can
do all
see.
the modelling, we'll have all of that, we'll do that in-house. And Stephen and I will work on the plan of the next steps so that we can take you through.
Let's say we aren't able to rate paper. Something we haven't spent. So how did Wairo get on saying that we want to rate 7 times the general rate for forestry, when we're really only allowed to collect rates for whatever the cost of running our business, or would forestry pay for all the business in Wairo District Council?
the people low deprivation people in the township of Wairau were paying really big rates for their incomes. So their rates went down.
So I guess that's to us, if we get the balance right, our resident ratepayer of Central Otago of today stays the status quo for maybe many years, or may see a slight reduction rate if we get if it's wealth tax.
I think
Get that right.
You're talking about a number of, and through the whole conversation here, there's a number of opportunities to explore some stuff. All of them come to the finish line, and some of them will get to the finish line. But I think it's based on what I'm hearing, it's going to be a substantive review. There's going to be some really tough decisions, and we're going to have to do a number of models just to see how it works. I like to start with a model that's 100% capital value and one that's 100% land value, and see what they look like together, and then start working out what's in the middle. Is there targeted rates in the middle and things like that? One of the things with targeted rates is they can be less flexible than the general rate.
Yes.
And they become certain in time. And some of the decisions that I was part of recommending to a council back in 2003 are difficult to get out, very difficult to get out of now. The consequences of that.
That sounds a great conversation. Can we use targeted rates to offset growth? Stop growth. Well, basically, if we're having problems keeping up their infrastructure, everything we're doing, can we use rates as a mechanism to balance out growth?
That's what debt's for.
Hey?
That's what debt's for. It's so I've done a lot of work in Hamilton. They're real good at it.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying, I'm going to go back to solar farms. There's an avenue really looking where they've got foreign.
You can find a new opportunity to grow your base. That's fabulous. That's good for everyone.
Yeah, I don't think that's the question. I think what you're saying is if we don't want that to happen,
As quick as it may be happening, or we don't want it to happen.
Rates to discourage it is what.
Or to make sure that question. And I'm just, that's exactly the question.
We need to answer through that because we do have some guests waiting for what is quite an important event. So
Thank you.
Apologies for the cutting it short, but thank you very much for walking through those, and we do look forward to the slides coming through, and just will come back to us at a coming meeting.
Yeah, well, either a December meeting in terms of the paper to get your direction of it, to get us going, but we'll see if it's feasible, otherwise it will be very interesting.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.